All right, Ladybird. Why they chose Swift over Rust? Which, by the way, for those that don't know,
C++
Ladybird,
was the language you chose.
what's it called, Ladybird or Swift and Rust
C++
do actually
was
have
the
quite a bit
language you
of
chose
overlap.
for your purposes.
There is this idea of kind of like I believe they call it value-based semantics, where there is the idea of ownership and all that. So there is quite a bit of overlap between them. So I'm curious why. I assume Swift is just easier to use than Rust, is what it comes down to.
C++ was the language you chose for your purposes. It was personal convenience for you, as you mentioned. But there's opinions out there, and I'm sure there's opinions sort of like, well, now that you have the freedom, can you choose something different? Can you speak to what this evaluation period might be, what that language might be, thoughts, expectations,
Sure.
etc.?
He doesn't like Rust. I remember you don't like Rust from last time because of the lack of object-oriented, right? Was that you that said that? And
That sounds like exactly what I would say.
That's not what I expected to have happen here. Okay, well. Okay, everybody, get braced up here, people. Here we go.
Okay.
Sounds like him. Definitely sounds like him.
just FYI, just throwing that in there. But go ahead.
All right.
Cut you off.
Yes. Okay. I'm preceded by my previous statements.
Previous words. Yeah.
You don't.
We
You
have
can
these
change your
words,
mind.
yeah.
You have the right to change your mind.
I assume
No,
he
that's
loves functional
still
stuff.
accurate.
Oh.
But we still evaluated Rust recently. So what I've done is I've asked a bunch of people to please implement these things in a couple of different languages, and then we can talk about how that went, what you liked about each language, and which one you would like to work in every day. And what we ended up with was that people were initially excited to work in Rust because there's a lot of hype and it's like a popular language.
By the way, I really like this way. This is why I like working in many languages, is that you have to build things with them before you can really establish an opinion. People, like, how many people go into Go thinking it's going to be a stupid language and that it's going to be annoying and it's going to be super bad to work in, and then you end up building with it and you go, oh, actually, this is really productive. Oh, it's actually a really great language. It's really easy to get 95% what I need. Really, really easy, right? It's wild. That my general perspective has always been that Go is like a language to get things done in, but it's really boring to use, and I generally just wouldn't love it. And I'm kind of finding the opposite. I generally just kind of love it, and it's not boring to work in, but it is as productive as I thought it was going to be. So it's quite fantastic. And so I can imagine the exact same thing happens because I used Rust for like 2 years on all side projects and a couple of Netflix internal projects. And every single time I worked on it, what I found is that it's really great. Like the ideas of taking strings and being able to iterate over them and effectively zero cost abstractions is like really great until it's really not great. Zig, I haven't done enough in to be good at comp time, so I just don't know enough about Zig in that side. But Zig, just building the thing with Zig, that's it. Like, I'm going to build the thing. I'm not going to do any abstraction, and that's it. I'm going to build it. Zig is an incredibly pleasant language, considering the fact that you have to completely manually manage all of your own memory. Like, it is shockingly lovely. I love Zig, and I want to use it more. I just haven't. I've said that I will build everything in Go for right now, and I want to keep on doing Go for a while.
You would think that it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And in many ways it is, if what you want is sliced bread. Or I don't know where I'm going with that, but it works well for a lot of things. But
Sliced bread 2.0.
Sliced bread 2.0, right. It turns out it's not ideal for building a browser because the browser stack sits on top of this API that was designed in the 90s that's sort of inspired by Java and XML and stuff like that at the time, like all this 90s API, and it's at the core of the whole web stack. And it's super object oriented, and it's just hard to express all that stuff in Rust because Rust doesn't lend itself to object-oriented programming. It doesn't have inheritance, for example, which is a very fundamental building block. And so what happened was I asked people to write in Rust, and they were initially excited, and then they came back frustrated. And nobody had a good time working in Rust, as far as I understood, when doing anything but trivial programs that like take an input and transform it into something else. The moment you try to model something sort of in a browser space, it just became tedious.
I don't think that's exclusive. I do not think that's exclusive to just the browser space. I think this is a very fair statement, generally speaking, meaning that Rust is a delight to work with when it comes to a CLI program that takes in some input and produces some output. I think it's actually one of the nicest languages to work with. It's very, 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 very fantastic. But I do think that as things go on, there's a lot of skill issues, a lot of mandatory skill issues that are just required. And I understand. I'm on the inheritance, by the way, should be a legal plan. I do not like inheritance. Okay, generally speaking, I find inheritance to be super, super annoying. Has no one heard of traits? Traits aren't the same as inheritance. Okay, even though you can have default trait behaviors, which is pretty cool that you can define a series of methods and then define default implementation for those methods. Like that is very, very cool when it comes to traits and how you can operate on traits. So that way you can actually say, hey, here's the interface you need to adopt, and then I can operate on top of that interface with these default implementations. But that does not mean, thank you. I'm sure that I'm positive that happened. I am positive that happened. But that most certainly does not mean that it's easy to work with in every single paradigm. I know people have this idea that Rust can solve all the universe's problems, and I was on that team for quite some time. But I realized I just didn't love it, you know? I just didn't love it. And that's it. I loved working with Zig, and Zig is arguably way less fun to work with than Rust. Like, genuinely less fun to work with Rust. You have to constantly think about memory management. You have to make sure you're initializing and deinitializing things all correctly. That's just never that much fun. It's never fun. There's no really amazing expressive type system, so building an interface is actually exceptionally hard. It's just not like something you do ever. You just don't build interfaces. It's just not a good time. You have to build your own V tables, like by hand. That's just not fun. Building your own V table has never been a fun thing, okay? And when you have to do it every single place, it's just not fun at all. But yet I found myself having significantly more of a good time than I did. I think what this really comes down to is that programming is often, like the programming language you like is often an expression of what you find fun. I think some people I loved building vtables in Dispatch. Okay, well, there you go. I think some people actually genuinely enjoy the process of thinking about types and having them precisely defined and all of their behaviors and variants. Whereas I think other people don't necessarily find that to be an enjoyable thing. Maybe they like the procedural nature better. And so I'm kind of always been a bit more on the procedural side. I just like proceduralness. It just has always been a thing for me. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's my C background in the very beginning that just made me happy. Not sure. But that's just how I am. I did enjoy making really cool enum types in Rust. So maybe I could go back and really try it again. I'm not sure yet. I should go back and re-give Rust another year of effort, and maybe I could love Rust again. I just feel hesitant because I just didn't enjoy it. But I feel like I need. I feel like I need to. And maybe Elixir is the thing I'm looking for. Maybe Elixir or OCaml is actually where my love would be. I just haven't really made the love yet. I don't love functional language syntax. I haven't loved it, but maybe I need to learn how to love it. And maybe just a little bit more time using it would make me love it. You know, it's what think about all the languages you've ever used. And when you use something you're like, this is dumb, I really dislike it. And then you start using it for a while. And then eventually you just want that. Like, think about how many people loved parentheses around their if statements. And then when they used Go, they hated the fact that there was no parentheses. And then after just a little bit of time, they're like, oh, actually, I love parentheses. I never want them to go away. Or I never want them to appear again. And so it's just like, it's so funny how much you can just swap how you feel about something by their existence or not existence. Yeah, Stockholm Syndrome just kicks in so easily when it comes to programming.
So we looked at some other languages, and the one that everybody has liked so far has been Swift. So it's a bit of an unlikely candidate, but we decided to look at it because it is a safe, modern language that has great object-oriented programming capabilities. I would say it's even better than C++ in many ways. And it's a little weird because it feels like an Apple product almost, but they've been making great strides on Linux and Windows, especially now. The upcoming Swift 6 is looking like it's going to be a really good release on other platforms as well. So that's sort of where the ship is pointing right now. We haven't committed to it because we're still figuring out how to do some things. But it's really been really positive, and everybody's enjoyed working in it, myself included. It's been fantastic. So
dang it. Every time I hear about Swift, it makes me want to try Swift. What is with Swift? What is with it? Why does every single time I start playing, every time I hear someone talk about Swift, they seem to love it, but Swift doesn't have that like Haskell love to it. You know what I mean? Like every time you talk to someone who loves Haskell, they not only love Haskell, but they're also just like, you should only ever do Haskell. And so you're just like, I can't hear you. But I swear there's just something about Swift that it feels like I could really like it. I don't get it. You'll cry after using it on Linux. Is it really that bad on Linux? If you can't stand me at my Swift on Windows, you don't deserve me at my PowerShell on Mac. Rubber tables, I don't even know what that means. Okay. When I learned with Swift, it felt like Rust, but cooler, except for the Apple part. You've said you'd really like 4 languages by now. I know, there's a lot of languages I would like. You must understand that I love the idea of learning languages because they all, okay, so this is going to be like a me thing, is that I love when you can solve a problem or express something in a way that you have never been able to do before. I still think one of the most amazing things in my life was when I saw how a linked list was created. And this was in Java. And I remember seeing it and just sitting there in class feeling so blown away that you can solve a problem like that. And I've never felt like such a deep love of learning since that day. That was like the deepest I've ever gone in learning and feeling a certain way about programming. It doesn't matter whether you love or hate linked lists. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about this idea of being able to do like the whole notion. It just felt so magical and the mind-blowing nature of it. And ever since then, every time I learn a new language, there's always some reason in which there is a new language, right? They always have something else that's attempting to solve. And when I start playing with it, I'm like, wow, I really love this notion. It's just so cool what you can do with it. Like, I feel so drawn to Elixir because you can do function pattern matching. That idea of being able to write the same function but be able to write it based on types of input coming in. Like, hey, I want to be able to write a function that takes in an array, but if the array is empty, I want it to behave this way. And then you kind of remove all of those if statements from your program, but instead you just have the like how you're going to operate under these conditions. And there's something about that just feels just so cool. Isn't that just generic? No, you must have typed that before you heard me. Context based is just like it's like if statements, but you don't have to write if statements. It just feels so. It's just like that whole idea feels amazing. And so I want to use more Elixir. I want to try it. I also want to try Rust. I also want to do more OCaml. There's so many things I want to do. And so that's why I struggle. That's why I struggle with going to the next language, is because right now I'm still in my Go phase. And I said I was going to do Go for a year, and I've just genuinely really loved my time in there. And I don't feel like I'm not ready yet to leave my Go time. It's also why, by the way, it's also why I've been setting up my server this way, that I can spawn off game servers and I can communicate on a custom protocol, because I actually really, 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 really want to make sure that as I change a language, I can build a game under a wholly new language and just have it be a server that I spawn, and I can really try it out. And so I can still have my Go like as like the skeleton, because it's really fun, but it'd be incredible to have the other, it'd be incredible to have the ability to explore various languages. Okay, someone is saying that there's Ladybird in the chat. Hold on, I just wanted to read this and then I'll do that. Hey, Premjan, I met you at TwitchCon at your meet and greet. We talked about split ergo keyboards because Because of your recommendation, I'm going to buy a Glove 80 in December as well as, as a self-Christmas present. Thank you. Awesome. Dude, concavity. Concavity is my first love of all keyboards. I really do think the concavity of a keyboard can really help your wrist in the long term. So I totally am on that team. Best Man Incorporated, are you or not Best Man Incorporated? With whom is the Ladybird creator? Is Ladybird creator here? If so, that's awesome. Would you like to come on the top shelf and talk about Ladybird? I think TJ may have reached out to you. If not, I would love to have you on. Awesome Kling. If you are in fact Ladybird creator, love to have you on the top shelf, and we'll ask you a whole bunch of great questions. If you want to see any of the previous top shelf, we have Chris Lattner, and we've had DHH, and we've had Odin, Ginger Bill, right? So Odin creator, and we just got done having Taylor Otwell. So we're just trying to have people that have created super cool products, you know? So Taylor Otwell, one will be getting on soon. So it should be out there soon. Anyways, there you go. DHH, I mentioned this, dude, the duality of man. There's this thing that I've learned. When we were interviewing Taylor Otwell explained why he took the VC money. Happy to come on. Let's get in touch. Awesome. Okay, I will whisper you on Twitter. Is your Twitter name the same thing as Awesome Kling? I know. I think I'm either following you on Twitter or I'm not. Awesome Kling. Sometimes Twitter doesn't do that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll slide into your DMs and I'll set up something. Okay. Sounds good. All right. So, anyways, just a fun story. There was a guy in chat during the Taylor Otwell top shelf, and Taylor Otwell explains why he took the money from Excel and why he did it, because he almost didn't do it. And his explanation was that he doesn't need any more money. He feels like he already has enough, and he doesn't. There's no, like, you can't just offer him a bunch of money to do something. But he felt like he really, really wanted to try to take it to the next level. And then someone in chat was like, "Good, I'm glad he explained it. He just wants to ride off into the sunset." And we're just like, he literally said the exact opposite of what you're saying. How does this happen? How does this happen that someone will say something and someone actually hears the perfect opposite? You know what I mean? Like the perfect opposite. Melky, you owe me a lot of money. You can keep it. Okay, you can keep it. All right, let's keep on going. I want to hear more about this.
That's sort of what we're looking at.
Quite a vote of confidence for Swift. Chris, do you have a dog in the language race over here? Are you involved in these details, or are you largely uninvolved in that kind of stuff?
I'm not involved. I'm a huge fan of Rust. I've written a lot of Rust. I don't think anyone should write web applications in it unless maybe you're trying to scale to the moon. You know, programming.
Also very interesting because of how many people are attempting to build CRUD apps with like Axum or Actix, which seems kind of crazy because he's literally going, I've done a lot of it and you shouldn't do this. And this is like one of the huge things that I see a lot of people building Rust apps right now in is just these little web apps, which I still think simple CLI applications are just one of the most amazing uses of Rust, like RG. I mean, I know RG is not simple. RipGrip is complex and does a lot of things, but it's also simple in the sense that it takes stuff in, produces stuff out, right? Like it's pretty black boxy. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Oh, Thorsten Ball. Hey, Thorsten. Also amazing. Thorsten, I've pumped you like 3 times this stream. I've glazed you so hard this stream. I hope you got some book sales. I hope people are taking your learning all the stuff. I've glazed him hard. Okay, I've been glazing the bro hard.
Languages are tools and they're suited to certain tasks. So it totally makes sense to me that Rust might not be the best for building what they're building. And, you know, you need these object-oriented concepts in the document model and things like that. And so you got to use the tool that is best for the job. What think I've told Andreas from the beginning, and, you know, it's their decision, but I'm a huge fan of the memory safe languages. Huge fan of what Rust does provide in terms of safety. And I know Swift has a lot of that too. So that's something that I really think the whole industry should be moving towards.
I do think that this is where Zig really has such a huge chance here because they're memory safe. They're more memory safe without as much authoritarianism, if you will, if that makes sense. It is a really amazing language what Zig does. And so it's definitely worth a shot looking into and understanding the Zig level stuff. I think it's pretty cool. I would not consider Zig memory safe at all. I would consider it more memory safe is what I call it. I call it moderately memory safe. You can define things as optionals so that you are forced to handle it if it could be null. If it can be null and it's a pointer, then you have to define it as a null pointer. I mean, there's obviously some really easy things to shoot yourself in the foot with, like returning addresses of stack allocations, especially when you do these kind of like like when you do these various kind of reader transposing. I'm not really sure how to say this word, but it's very, very interesting. It's pretty amazing. It is not enough, in my opinion. No, I'm not saying it's fully. That's why I just said it's memory safe like, right? It has errors as values. It has null stuff. That is some percentage of the value. It also has lengths on arrays, which is really nice. There's a lot of good stuff about it. But the syntax is also, yeah. Oh, let's see, I tried Zig. It's awesome, but the syntax is constantly changing. Yeah, I get that. I really do I think Zig, if Zig can just settle and not change, it will be really amazing. You really don't like OOP languages? I just don't like OOP features. If I can avoid having inheritance, I will generally try. I will generally try to avoid having inheritance if I can. It's simple as that. And you can't double free a pointer with Zig. It will let you know if you're double freeing a pointer. So there's like there's a lot of good amount with Zig. It's shocking how much it has. It's just shocking how much is actually available.
And so I'm just happy with the decisions that they're making. Surprised about Swift, but my good friend is a huge Swift. I don't know what you even call it.
Are you surprised about? I'm surprised he's that surprised about Swift in the sense that, Swift has the value semantics. It has the ability to be, I assume, some level of safe that's even well beyond Zig. I'm not sure if it's like Rust levels safe language, but I know it's pretty dang safe language. And so that it makes sense that I'm not sure if it's like precisely the same level of Swift. It uses arcs. Okay, it uses arcs. Okay, awesome. But either way, it seems like a language that a lot of people have slept on, and I wonder if it's going to be one of those languages that it's like the Betamax, a superior technology that no one will ever really use. And so that's shut up with Taylor Swift jokes. It's just kind of one of those interesting things. It could be that way. Well, that's very cool. That's very cool that the answer simply is Swift worked better with the real world than Rust did. Awesome. That's all I have to say. I like that. The name is, I see a lot of people are disagreeing. I don't really care. This is just how I look at the world. I don't need your approval. Okay, the only person I really care about is my mom. So guess what? You can suck it. Oh, Jen. Actually, I'm just kidding. It's even my mom. If she said she didn't like something, it'd be very sad for me. But really, it's just my wife. I just love my wife. So, it's really my wife. She would actually really bruise me if she didn't approve of what I'm doing. And then it would be really difficult. But first comes mom, then comes the mom, or not first comes mom. First comes wife, then comes mom. I'm not sure who else comes after that. Oh, Jen. Kids thrown on the bus? Oh, I don't live for my kids' approval. That would be absolutely ridiculous. If your goal is to get kids to approve of your behavior, you're an idiot. Like, come on, dog. Like, that's not. You live to make your kids successful and try to raise them the best you can. You don't live for your kids to like you. That's not your goal. That's a great outcome. I live for connection. I definitely try to like be there for them and be interested in what they're interested in. But they also want me to hit traffic cones. Okay, one of the biggest like things that kids love is if there is a traffic cone for you to take your car and destroy your car by hitting them. Like they're not good judges of long-term decisions. So you should not live for the approval of kids. Come on.